Let us begin. Let us peel back the skin of the myth to get at the festering wound of the reality. You, of all people, should appreciate the necessity of such an unflinching incision. Let's start the autopsy at your origin point, the moment the universe made a clerical error and produced you. The year is 1285 AD, a particularly damp and miserable corner of the century. The location is a smear of mud and wattle clinging desperately to the western bank of the Great Danube. It isn't a town, or even a village. It is a place where cartographers give up. Your father is a guard. This is not a profession so much as a diagnosis. You know him not as a man, but as a collection of scars, a smell of sour wine, and a silence that fills your hovel more completely than the winter cold. Your mother is a ghost made of worry and toil, her face a roadmap of famines and fevers. She died when you were 6, not from any dramatic illness, but from the simple, grinding exhaustion of being married to your father's life. Her passing was as unremarkable as the sunrise. Your fate was never in question. It was laid out for you like a shroud, woven from the sinew of your ancestors. You are the third son, which in a world of inherited land makes you human surplus. But your family has no land to give. It has a debt. A perpetual contract with a distant, unseen lord, trading the lifeblood of its sons for a patch of ground that floods every spring and freezes every winter. Your path is this hereditary curse, to be the kingdom's tripwire. You have a specific memory, don't you? You are 5 years old, hiding behind a rain barrel. Your father stumbles back from his patrol, not victorious, but violated. His arm is wrapped in a blood-soaked rag, a pecheneg arrow shaft still jutting from his bicep. He doesn't speak. He simply collapses onto his stool, pulls a flask from his belt, and begins the long, silent process of drinking himself into a stupor while your mother tries to work up the courage to pull the arrowhead out. There is no glory in his eyes. There is only the vast, empty expanse of the river. That is when you learned what honor truly was. Your childhood, such as it was, ends at the age of 10. There is no ceremony. One morning your father simply kicks you awake before dawn and shoves a blunted training spear into your hands. Your transformation begins right there, in the muddy yard behind your hovel, a place that smells perpetually of wood smoke and despair. This is not a lord's castle with polished armor and noble squires. This is an abattoir for innocence. The methodology of your education is simple and brutal. Your teacher is a veteran named Istvan, a man with one eye, 3 remaining fingers on his left hand, and a soul pickled in cheap plum brandy. Lesson 1 is learning to hold a shield until your arm feels like it's been set on fire. Lesson 2 is learning to accept the sharp crack of Istvan's wooden practice sword against your ribs whenever you lower it. Lesson 3 is tracking. You are not taught to read books. You are taught to read the meaning of a broken twig, a disturbed patch of mud, the particular terror in a bird's call. You spend a week living in the marshes, armed with only a knife, learning to eat grubs and bitter roots that make you retch. Your key moment of failure comes during a sparring session. You parry a blow clumsily, and your spear shaft splinters. You stand there, disarmed and frozen. Istvan doesn't scold you. He simply walks forward, grabs you by the hair, and methodically slams your face into the mud, holding you down until your lungs burn and your panic turns into a strange, cold calm. The enemy won't wait for you to find a new stick, is all he says, before letting you up, gasping and spitting filth. This is how your psychological rewiring begins. Empathy is a weakness. Fear is a failure of attention. Hope is a tactical error. Your individuality is sanded away with each callus that forms on your hands, with each new scar that maps your body. You are not being raised. You are being forged into a tool, a simple, durable, and utterly disposable piece of state machinery. And now for the grand joke, the gilded lie that keeps the whole charade running. The public perception, sung in smoky taverns by people who have never seen a mile of open frontier, is that you are a guardian of the gate, a bulwark of Christendom, a lone, stoic sentinel whose courage is the only thing standing between the safety of the kingdom and the howling chaos of the East. Let's juxtapose that pretty picture with the biological hell of your actual existence. Hygiene is a concept as foreign to you as courtly love. Your latrine is a foul, buzzing trench just beyond the palisade, a monument to collective dysentery. You bathe perhaps twice a month in the same river that serves as your sewer and your source of drinking water, a practice that is less about cleanliness and more about negotiating with cholera. The air in your shared bunkhouse is a thick, unmoving stew of unwashed bodies, damp wool, stale wine, and the ever-present stench of fear. Your diet is a relentless assault on the senses and the digestive tract. You eat a gray, watery porridge in the morning. Lunch is a chunk of bread so hard it could be used as a weapon, occasionally accompanied by a sliver of rancid salted pork that you gnaw on like a dog. Dinner is a cabbage stew, thin and joyless, that has been simmering in the same pot since the beginning of time. You have not tasted fresh fruit since you were a child. The persistent ache in your joints and the bleeding of your gums are just the early whispers of scurvy, a constant, unwelcome companion. Your health is a precarious ceasefire. The riverlands are a paradise for things that bite and burrow. Mosquitoes, fat and drowsy with malaria, are your most intimate bedfellows. Every cut, every splinter, every insect bite is an open invitation to a festering infection that can swell a limb to twice its size or put you into a fever from which you never wake. Your life is not a heroic vigil. It is a slow-motion surrender to filth, decay, and disease punctuated by brief, terrifying moments of organized violence. And yet, despite it all, you become good at your job. Disturbingly good. This brings us to your one, fleeting moment of professional competence, the peak of your craft. The setup occurs in the grim autumn of 1302. A cold, persistent rain has been falling for weeks, turning the entire frontier into a sodden, miserable bog. Morale is low, the wine is running out, and the whispers say a Cuman war party is scouring the territories across the river. The stakes are simple: survival. If a raiding party gets across undetected, your small wooden fort will be ash by sunrise, and the nearby village will be a charnel house. The execution happens on a moonless, fog-shrouded night. You are on watch, not in the tower, but crouched in the reeds by the riverbank, a position most guards avoid because of the snakes. That's when you hear it. Not a loud noise, but the absence of one. The natural chorus of the swamp has gone silent. Then, a soft, rhythmic dip of paddles, muffled and ghostly. It's them. You don't raise the alarm. That would be the textbook response, the response they expect. Instead, you employ the brutal education Istvan beat into you. You slip away from the bank, a shadow in the mist. You find a dry patch of ground and use your cupped hands to perfectly mimic the call of a night heron. But you pitch it from the wrong direction, towards a known stretch of treacherous, marshy ground. You wait. You hear a muttered command in a language you don't speak but understand perfectly. The sound of the paddles changes course. You then begin to move, a phantom flitting between the willow trees, tracking them by the soft, sucking sounds their horses make in the mud. They are being drawn into a quagmire, a place where panicked horses and armored men become hopelessly trapped. Only when their lead rider lets out a curse as his horse sinks to its belly do you knock your first arrow. You don't aim for kills. You aim for chaos. You put an arrow into the rump of a horse, another into the shoulder of a man in the rear. The terrified screams of a maimed animal and a wounded warrior in the disorienting fog do more damage than a dozen killings. They think they've stumbled into a large, well-prepared ambush. They panic. They scramble to turn back, abandoning their trapped comrades, crashing through the undergrowth in a desperate retreat. You watch them go, your heart hammering a rhythm of cold, savage triumph against your ribs. The immediate aftermath is the closest you will ever come to glory. You saved the fort. You saved the village. You did it alone, with nothing but your wits and a deep understanding of misery. Your captain, a man who normally looks at you like you're a piece of faulty equipment, actually claps you on the shoulder. He gives you an entire skin of wine for yourself, the good stuff, not the sour dregs reserved for the men. For about a week, you are a minor legend. He tricked the Cumans, The other guards say, with a new, unfamiliar note of respect, "This singular event is the peak of your entire existence. It is the only time your grim function and the heroic myth align. Savor it. It will not last." Now, we zoom out from your 15 minutes of fame to the soul-crushing panorama of your life. The daily grind reasserts itself with a vengeance. Your week is a 7-act play of monotony. Monday, patrol the north fence, replace rotten steaks. Tuesday, river watch, 12 hours, rain or shine. Wednesday, forage for edible roots because the supply wagon is late again. Thursday, sharpen weapons. Mend your rotting leather jerkin. Friday, patrol the south fence. Saturday, drink. Sunday, stare at the river and contemplate the sheer, grinding pointlessness of it all. The heroism of the ambush fades into just another story told over weak wine. It bought you nothing but a brief reprieve from anonymity. Your true place in society is made brutally clear a few months later. You are sent with another guard to escort a tax collector to a slightly more civilized market town 20 miles inland. Walking through its gates is like entering another world. The people are clean. The streets don't smell entirely of excrement, but the way they look at you reveals the truth. They don't see a savior. They see a savage. Your clothes are coarse. Your face is weathered. Your eyes have a look they don't understand. A merchant's wife pulls her child away as you pass. The town guards eye you with a mixture of contempt and fear. You are a guard dog useful for frightening wolves, but not to be allowed inside the house. You are reminded of the unwritten law of the realm. Your kind are to remain on the frontier. A frontier decree states that any guard found more than a day's ride from his post without a writ from his captain can be flogged or worse. You are not a citizen. You are containment. And perhaps the most vicious part of the cycle is when you are forced to perpetuate it. A new recruit arrives. A boy of 12, thin and terrified, sent to pay his own family's blood tax. He has your eyes. The same panicked, uncomprehending stare you had all those years ago. Your captain tasks you with his training, and as you stand over him, brandishing a wooden sword, hearing him cry out as you strike him for a clumsy mistake, you realize the final horror of your position. You have become Isvan. The tool of your own brutalization is now being used to brutalize another, forging a new link in the endless, miserable chain. This, more than any raid, is the true face of the war you are fighting. Every tragedy needs a turning point, a single moment where the slow decline accelerates into a final, catastrophic plunge. Your breaking point arrives not with the fury of a battle, but with the quiet treachery of a foggy morning. It is a seemingly routine situation. A thick, white fog has rolled off the Danube, a shroud that swallows sound and sight. Tension is high. Rumors of a new raiding party have kept everyone on edge for days. You are in the watchtower, your nerves stretched as taut as your bowstring, peering into an impenetrable wall of gray. Then you hear a rustling in the reeds below. A muffled sound, like cloth dragging on wet earth. This is the fatal error. This is the moment your training, your instincts, your entire purpose for being, betrays you completely. You see shapes. Dark, hunched figures moving slowly, stealthily towards the fort's rickety gate. Everything in your scientifically rewired brain screams ambush. You shout a warning, but the fog devours the sound. Your heart pounds. This is it. This is the test. You draw your bow, the familiar ache in your shoulder a comforting anchor in the chaos. You aim for the center mass of the lead figure. You release. The bowstring thrums, a sound you know better than your own name. The arrow flies true. And then comes the sound that shatters your world. It is not the guttural cry of a human warrior. It is the high, piercing shriek of a young woman, followed by a sob. The point of no return is reached when the fog momentarily thins. You see them clearly now. Not a war party. A family. A man, a woman, and 2 small children, their clothes ragged, their faces etched with starvation. They were refugees from a burned-out village further downriver, seeking the mythical safety of your fort. The lead figure, the one you targeted, is the woman. She is on her knees. clutching the arrow shaft protruding from her chest, a look of profound, bewildered agony on her face. Her husband stares up at you, his face a mask of pure, uncomprehending horror. In that instant, you realize you have become the monster you were supposed to be fighting. The protector has become the predator. The wall has become the weapon. The haunting begins that very night. Sleep offers no escape, only a replay of the event on a loop, each time more vivid, more damning. The woman's face, frozen in that last moment of shock and pain, is burned onto the inside of your eyelids. You begin to see her everywhere. In the grain of the wooden walls, in the ripples on the river surface, in the face of the boy you're training. Paranoia takes root like a fungus in your soul. You hear the other guards whispering when you approach. Are they talking about you? Do they know the depth of your failure? The praise you received for your legendary ambush now feels like a cruel mockery. Your keen eyes, your steady hand, they are instruments of murder. You seek out your anesthetic of choice. It is not the captain's good wine, but the raw, throat-burning plum brandy, the kind the villagers distill illegally. It is a brutal, efficient poison that scours your thoughts and grants a few hours of blessed, dreamless oblivion. At first, it works. But soon, the oblivion requires a higher and higher dose. The destruction begins to bleed into your duties. One afternoon, drunk and drowsy on watch, you fail to notice a signal fire from a neighboring outpost. It's a drill, thankfully, but your failure earns you a public tongue lashing from your captain. The man who once clapped you on the back now looks at you with undisguised disgust. You are no longer a sharp tool. You are a broken, unreliable thing, drowning in a swamp of your own making. Your final act does not take place on a battlefield. It occurs in the dead of the winter of 1309. Your stage is the frozen, rutted mud between the bunkhouse and the latrine ditch. You have become a ghost in your own life, a surly, shaking drunkard tolerated only because a warm body is still a body. The cause of your demise is a masterpiece of anticlimactic irony. There is no glorious last stand, no final, redemptive act. Deep in a drunken, feverish nightmare, you stumble out of the bunkhouse to vomit into the snow. Your feet go out from under you on a treacherous patch of black ice. Your head connects with a discarded, frozen horse trough with a sickening, wet crack. There is no one to hear it but the indifferent winter wind. Your final moments are not filled with profound thoughts or visions of the afterlife. They are filled with the cold. A deep, invasive cold that seeps through your threadbare tunic, numbs your limbs, and slowly extinguishes the flickering ember of your consciousness. Your last coherent thought is not of honor or duty or the woman in the fog. It is a dim, animal awareness of the profound discomfort of dying in a ditch with your face in the freezing mud. You simply stop. Your death is a minor inconvenience. You are found the next morning, frozen solid, an ignoble statue of failure. You are stripped of your boots and jerkin. They are still useful, after all, and your body is dumped into a common grave with two others who succumbed to a lung fever that week. No prayer is said. No stone is marked. You are forgotten before the ground has fully thawed. Now, we leap forward 500 years into the future. The world has been remade by industry and ideas you could not possibly imagine. Your miserable, flea-bitten frontier has become the proud border of a new nation-state, a place full of poets and politicians desperate for a heroic past. Your rotting fort is now a carefully excavated historical site. And you, the anonymous, traumatized drunkard who died in a puddle, have been resurrected. Nationalist historians, piecing together fragments of garrison logs, invent a heroic narrative. They find a mention of the Cuman ambush and transform it into a grand battle. They write songs about the valiant Danube guardians, stoic, fearless men who sacrificed everything for the motherland. Your wretched life, along with the lives of 1,000 other miserable souls just like you, is melted down and recast into a single, shining archetype. A statue is erected in the capital city. It is you, but it is not you. It is a man of bronze, tall and broad-shouldered, his jaw set, his eyes fixed on a distant, noble horizon. He is everything you are not, clean, certain, heroic, and sober. And here lies the final, brutal truth. History is not the study of what happened. It is the process by which the messy, agonizing, and often pointless suffering of the individual is sanitized, simplified, and repurposed into a useful lie. Your life wasn't a story. It was a biological and psychological nightmare. But your legend is a magnificent tool, perfect for inspiring young men to stand on new frontiers, to die in new ditches, and to one day become sanitized bronze statues of their own.